Hi everyone, it's Darlene. Welcome back for another card. Today I'm doing a clean and simple card with a little bit of a twist because I've got it stamped on two separate panels. So I'm using the Greetings and Succulents set by Simon Says Stamp. And I've cut some Ranger watercolor paper, and I have the sizes just above the video on my blog post. And my card base is just made of some Neenah Solar White. So the first thing I'm going to do is arrange my panels on the top here. And I'm going to take a pencil and I'll mark the center. And then I'll move my panels out of the way. And I'm going to stamp my flower in VersaFine Black Onyx ink. I love this ink because it gives a really nice, clean, crisp image. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some vellum and I'm going to use my tape again, and I'm going to tape it to my cardstock base. And this is just to protect it so that when I stamp the flower again, just in case it's a little bit off, I don't get any extra ink. So just those two pieces at the top are enough. And now I'm going to put my panels back on the cardstock on top of the vellum. I'm going to tape everything down really securely because when I stamp it, I don't want anything moving because this needs to really line up perfectly straight. And by the way, there's 1/8 of an inch between each of the panels. Alright, so this is my last piece, and then I'm going to take a Stamp-A-Majig, which is going to make sure that I line it all up perfectly, and I'm going to stamp it onto the sheet that comes with the Stamp-A-Majig so I know exactly where this stamp is on the acrylic block. Then I'm going to take this sheet and put it over the flower and line it up with the flower that's underneath my panels. And I'll ink up my stamp with some Memento because I'm going to be doing some watercoloring. And I'll stamp it down there, and I'll hold the jig there while I stamp it one more time because I want to make sure I get a really nice clean image. Once that's done, I can peel away all my pieces, and this tape works great. It doesn't stick to the paper at all. Alright, so I touched the cardstock with my finger that had a little bit of black ink on it, so I'm pointing it out right here. This is the black spot. Now the first thing I tried to do was take an adhesive remover gummy sort of thing. And that did not work at all. I don't know why I thought that would work. But my next step was to try a white gel pen. And that didn't look good, so I tried to rub it with my finger, and that made it look worse. So then I moved on to the sanding block, which I was really, really careful because I've done this before and completely ruined my cardstock. But I was able to, with some patience, it kind of removed, I guess, the cardstock, which had the ink on it. But because this is Ranger watercolor paper, it's very, very thick, and so it feels very, very smooth. So I was really happy I was able to get that out. Now this is my set of Inktense pencils. It's the 72 count set, and I'm just going to be using one color. I'm using fuchsia, so I'm going to pull that out, and I'll show you how I color this flower. It was really easy. I'm just going to take my pencil and I'm going to color the inside of every single petal, just one at a time. I'll start at the bottom and I'll move my way out, but I'm not going to go too far up because I want the edge of the petal to be white or a very, very light pink. So I'm just going to work my way around all these petals. I'm going to start on the inside, but then whenever there's a petal that goes over the petal that I'm doing, I will color around it so it kind of creates a shadow on the petal underneath it. So I want to make sure that that's a little bit darker. So I'll make sure that I put some pink there. Now I don't like my pencil to be very sharp when I'm doing something like this because then it might kind of create grooves in the paper when you color it. So I like it to be a little bit dull, the tip. Alright, now I'm going to take my Aqua Painter. I'm going to test it out on my finger a little bit and make sure that I have a tissue handy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do each one of these petals individually. I'm going to start with in the white area and move my way into the color. And then in between, I'm going to wipe it off on this tissue. So this is an Aqua Painter which has a tube of water, and when I squeeze it, more water comes out. So I really like the control of the water in this Aqua Painter. Now I didn't like that first petal, and I go back later and fix it, and I'll show you how I did that. But again, start in the white area and move into the color and kind of move the color around a little bit, but not too far out because you don't want to touch the edge of the petal because then you'll end up with one color on the whole petal, and you don't want that. You want it to be dark pink in the center and then move toward a lighter pink until finally it becomes white as it gets to the edge. So I'm going to do each one of these petals individually. And if I ever feel like I get too much color on my brush, I'm going to go ahead and wipe it on the tissue. So I'm using the tissue quite a bit. Alright, remember I said I didn't like the way actually two of those petals came out. So I'm going to actually touch my Aqua Painter tip to the tip of the pencil. And you'll see as I lay it down, it grabbed a ton of color just by touching it once to the tip. So I wiped it off on a tissue, and now I'm blending it in with my brush. I'm going to do the same thing for this next one. Touch my brush to the pencil, lay a little bit of color down, and then bring it out to the edge. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and do this on the next piece. I just put this in fast motion. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to arrange my panels on my card base. Now remember, the base is Neenah Solar White, so it's not watercolor paper. And I'm just going to color enough to where the area is exposed. So I want the color to, or the flower to appear colored underneath it, but I'm not going to put too much water under there or spend a bunch of time on areas that nobody's going to see. So when you're coloring watercolor on Neenah, you want to be really careful. You want to just put the minimal amount of water you need to. So I'm really only doing as many petals as I need to with very, very little water. And I'm going to put my panels on there and make sure that I covered all the right areas. And it looks good. Alright, my sentiment is coming from this Friendly Flower set. I'm just going to ink it up in some VersaFine, and I'll center it just under the flower on the bottom panel. Now I decided to take some pearls and color them with a Copic marker. This 110 marker is just solid black, and when you color it, color pearls with this black, it's just such a pretty gem that you can put on your card. So I'm going to do 7 of these, and then I'll go ahead and adhere these panels to the card base. I'm just using some Stampin' Up! Dimensionals, just some foam adhesive. I'll cover all 3 of them, and then I'm going to place them down on my card base. Now once I have that finished, I'm going to add my pearls, which, by the way, after you use Copics on pearls, it actually takes some time to dry. I like to let them dry for 10 or 15 minutes, but I didn't wait that long on this one. I wish I would have, but I was kind of in a hurry. Because sometimes you'll get it on your fingers, and then you might get it on your card, and you don't want to risk that. So anyway, if you have the time, it's probably best to let them dry for 15 or 20 minutes. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.